Information-fueled.
Opinion-driven.
This is Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
we talk news.
7:06, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to your friends. Hope you are doing well. Man, we've covered a lot of ground in the first 2 hours of the broadcast. Earlier, just very quickly, we were talking about how Trump, and this has been an ongoing discussion, and Trump's first 100 days, that mark is coming up. But we're talking about how really the left and the Democrats, they're taking the wrong side on literally everything. Sherry from the Red Pills Mom Club, she sent a text in, 615-737-9986, which is really long, but it's actually really good. She, of course, starts it with, well, Dan, here's the plan. Trump is making the left choose their side, and they're not choosing the side of we the people. Sherry, you're absolutely right. Trump is allowing things to be shown to we the people. Midterms are coming, so timing is everything. Trump herds these idiots right to the buffalo jump, and over the edge, they'll go just before the midterms. These activist judges are being exposed, and I will add, so are the Democrats, and so is the media clearly. She says there are over 600 of these judges, and like Bukele said, his activist judges were all impeached in El Salvador. He expects the Trump administration will follow that plan as well. And then when the Epstein files are strategically released just in time for the midterms, there will not be one Democrat vote, and some rhinos will be exposed as well. She says, so I'm excited to watch all of this. She says she wakes up every morning waiting to see which liberal idiot's head is exploding. So much fun. Great text in, Sherry. I actually like that. And she speaks the truth. Fact check true. Speaking of heads exploding, I want to play this audio. CNN did this whole segment, and I don't know what they were trying to, and Joan, you've seen this. I don't know exactly what it is that they were trying to do, but I'm calling this segment, so you call yourself a journalist. Yeah. CNN, this guy, Donnie O'Sullivan, does this story about what they refer to as the MAGA journalists. The reporters are from Steve Bannon's War Room. This is Natalie Winter, and this is how they introduced her.
Well, you're only probably with the most controversial White House correspondents. We're all biased, right? We just wear our bias, which I think is a pejorative term to begin with, on our sleeves.
All right, so that is Natalie Winters. You've got a woman named Karanova, and I may be shanking her name, Castronova, from Lindell TV, as in Mike Lindell.
And I'm actually really good at yelling because I used to be a ring announcer.
And Brian Glenn from Real America's Voice. And I actually like Brian Glenn a lot.
I mean, there's no doubt about it. I'm pro-Trump. The questions I ask, in my opinion, are going to help highlight the good things that he's doing for America.
So the way that they frame this whole piece, when they're talking about these MAGA journalists, is that they believe, CNN believes, that these reporters from the new media side of the room are somehow lesser than. Because they do wear their bias on their sleeve.
The new media outlets have full access to the White House briefing room where they ask questions like this.
Will you guys also consider releasing the president's fitness plan? He actually looks healthier than ever before.
Is he working out with Bobby Kennedy? And is he eating less McDonald's?
I can confirm the president is in very good shape.
Why don't you wear a suit? Why don't you wear a suit? You're the highest level in this country's office.
And that's by the way, that's Brian Glenn
asking that of Zelensky.
And that was when that whole thing started to go south.
Yep.
And Trump, everybody knew that Trump, we found out, was ticked off because Zelensky did not wear a suit. So Brian Glenn kind of started that whole thing.
Also, do you remember when the press corps was obsessed with what flavor of ice cream Joe Biden
constantly was eating. And how about the guys at Politico? And I think there was a staff of 3 that wrote a story, and I've talked about this before, about how high the hamburgers had to be stacked to go a mile high, because President Trump said at one point that he was going to have burgers a mile high to greet a championship football team.
Oh my goodness.
So
I
let me tell
remember
you,
that.
Yeah. So these reporters, honestly, the self-awareness is not there for how insane they've been over the past few years. And they want to call out the new ones. And guess what? I mean, just to go along with what you're talking about this morning, Politico also has an article. And the title of the article is Meet the 8 MAGA Outlets Disrupting the White House Briefing Room.
Oh.
And it's all the same people that are being interviewed on this newscast, yeah.
And are they disparaging them?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Well,
they sure are.
So, you know what the difference is, though, between and I'm just going to air quote, the MAGA reporters and the other reporters that are in the White House press briefing? Is that the reporters that are, pro-Trump, well, at least they're being honest. They're the only honest ones in that room, because the media, i.e. Washington Post, New York Times, the networks, they are clearly, and they always have been, anti-Trump, but they claim that they're not biased. They're clearly biased against Donald Trump. So the only real honest people in that room would be the, would be the White House press secretary. And also these, I guess there's 8. They only profiled 3 here. But you know what? If they're pro-Trump, they're being honest. Here's more from Brian Glenn.
The characterization that what you were doing, asking Zelensky that question, that you were trolling.
I'm not a troll. I never have been. That was a legitimate question that I just wanted to ask. It didn't mean to get everyone fired up like they did.
He didn't mean to start an international incident, which is actually what he did.
It's fantastic.
So they're pulling examples of the stories about what they ask. And it does feel, and you saw this, Joan, I feel like this was a hit piece disguised as a news story. Listen to this.
I view my role here more as sort of reporting on not so much the White House, but really the media. Our bias is not to be sycophants for President Trump. Our bias is for our audience, which is the working class of America, the people who want to put this country first.
If Trump messes up, will you guys call it out?
Yeah, and we have. I think time and time again, particularly on the vertical and issue of immigration, we are not for stapling green cards to diplomas.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're right. Because there have been times when on Steve Bannon's War Room where they've been really critical of Donald Trump.
Yes.
And so clearly the guy from CNN is number one. He's not really familiar with the work that they've done, Donnie O'Sullivan. They're not really familiar with the work that they've done. All they know is that these folks are by and large young, and they're wearing their bias and their support of Trump's policies on their sleeve.
Yeah.
And you know what? As I've mentioned a few times now, they are the ones that are honest. Oh, but the report does continue. I've got a couple more audio bites coming up straight ahead, and a terrific Scott Jennings moment on exactly this topic. It is all straight ahead, 7:15. Time to check the roads on WTN. Weather for today, a high of 80 and possible thunderstorms as well. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News on WTN. So as I'm watching this hit piece on the new media, I do believe that what makes the mainstream media so sinister, and really it's CNN, what makes them so sinister is that they pretend to be neutral when they clearly aren't.
We met the new media correspondents on the day Trump announced tariffs that could upend the world economic order. As other news outlets reported on the tanking stock market, on Bannon TV, they celebrated.
This is the first day where a sitting president put America's working class first, and it's a glorious day to be standing here at the White House and to be able to say that and bring that to you.
So realize a few things. The media coverage of Donald Trump's tariffs has been incredibly negative. And I've talked about how they are hoping and wishing and praying for a recession, because that's how the media operates. When I watch, they're always talking about how Donald Trump is destroying the economy, hurting our relationships with our allies, never giving the perspective of what Donald Trump is actually trying to do, which is level the playing field and bring jobs back home to America.
Do you consider yourself a journalist?
Yes.
Tell me.
Seems like you took a little pause to process that.
But I think we all should have a seat at the table. I really do. And if you look, the very first week she did the new media, it was Axios. And Axios, by no stretch of imagination, is a conservative new media.
But while not all new media here are MAGA media, a lot of them are more cheerleading President Trump than challenging him.
You are a Trump fan, right?
Yes, I'm definitely a supporter of President Trump.
So will you be able to hold them to account then?
I will be able to hold 100% him to account.
So the fact that these three are Trump supporters, they seem on this CNN hit piece, which, and let's be honest, this whole piece is meant to discredit these MAGA reporters. But they seem to make that a focal point of the story. But the reality is that the networks and CNN and MSNBC, they were always defending Biden and ignoring his deteriorating cognitive condition and the lies that were being told up at the podium, courtesy of Cringe Jean-Pierre and Jen Psaki. I mean, I don't need to say anything other than the border is secure, and everybody knows what I'm talking about. So while these folks are championing Donald Trump, look what the media was doing. Look what these media folks were doing during the last administration, protecting Joe Biden. So what is worse? Being completely honest about your worldview and your political view, and that is clearly evident in their presentation, or the likes of all these other media outlets who were lying for the last 4 years, and especially the last 2, on the lies within Joe Biden's policies, his actions, and his deteriorating mental condition. So these reporters, from conservative web shows, they're simply the exact opposite of what the liberal media is doing. They're just being more honest.
But to the people, and I'm sure you see this online every single day, who say you don't deserve to be here because you're not a real journalist, what's your response to them?
Well, I'm pretty sure the group of people in there spent, 4 years covering for someone who was essentially dead, and that's being charitable in my description of him, a president by the name of Joe Biden. So to all those people who are apoplectic over having new media voices, you guys failed. Yep. And that's why we're here.
Yep. The chair of the White House Correspondents Association, a group that has represented White House reporters for more than a century, recently wrote, "For the public to get information it needs to understand and make decisions about the most powerful office in the world, it needs news produced by experienced professional journalists who ask tough questions and produce fair coverage."
Do you hear yourself,
oh my gosh.
man?
It's infuriating, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, this from the Organization of Respected and Responsible Journalists that are responsible for how many hoaxes, right? You've got Maryland Man. You've got good people on both sides, Russian collusion. Joe Biden is sharp as a tack and the border is secure. All of those hoaxes, and that's just off the top of my head. So I thought especially that you, Joan, would appreciate the last part where this, this bastion of respected and responsible journalists are calling out these other people. I thought the whole thing was ludicrous.
It's like going to the club where you need the secret knock to get in and maybe the password. Mm-hmm. These people have they believe themselves to be journalists with a capital J. That's what I've always called them. And, they think they're the only ones that can tell the story. But they've been doing it with their eyes closed and their ears plugged up for so long because they just want to pay attention to the narrative that's in their head.
By the way, when they go to the super secret clubhouse and they knock on the door, do you know what the password is?
No, what's the password?
Trump sucks.
Yeah.
That's their
absolutely
password. All right, 7:21. By the way, coming up, that Scott Jennings audio along the same lines where he absolutely puts this guy, Kevin Hassett, Jeff Jarvis, puts Jeff Jarvis in his place. This is a guy who is trying to champion and defend the media, and Jennings just absolutely hits him on the side of the head with a brick, and that is coming up Joan, what's coming up in the news?
Well, we'll tell you why a Murfreesboro church was evacuated last night. Also, an accident involving a police cruiser responding to a call. In the end, an officer's canine was seriously injured. Those stories and more at 7:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.